Hello, I'm going to summarise a workshop with a school who are looking to move to a new building. It was over 4 days and we wanted to get some guiding principles for what that learning space needed to be when they're choosing the new building and designing it. So let's have a look at what we did. So day 1 of 4 was reflection day, or what is, where in the morning there was a sailboat activity. Now in a slight change to that normal sailboat activity, see that we put them onto a floor plan. Because we're looking at the current building, the what is, so each of those positives in blue and negatives on the pink sticky notes have gone onto the floor plan to kind of heat map the areas that work well and the areas that don't. And that's going to be something that we come back to on day 3 and just remind ourselves of what's working and what isn't. In the afternoon of day 1, we did an empathy exercise. People broke into a student group, so people who are going to empathise with the student experience, and a staff group, people who are going to empathise with the staff experience. So we used empathy maps to do that. And empathy maps can be used in a variety of ways. So we had all the empathy maps for all the different rooms, so we really got understanding of what works, what doesn't, what it feels like to be in those different spaces, and just get an understanding of that. And that was in the afternoon of day 1, before we then went on to do the applied user story mapping, essentially a timeline. So this one behind me is for the students. So reflecting on that student experience, and what you do for a user applied story mapping is you think about a typical day. So starting in the morning, what happens? And that's what this blue line here was, all of the things like walking through reception, going to a locker, or finding your first lesson. And in pink below that is some of the pain points. What are the issues that arise? And then below that, we've got some potential solutions. So we started to get into solutions at the end of day 1. Day 3 is the solutions. And that's where you really get into building those solutions out. So day 2. Remember, day 1 was what is. Day 2 is what if, or as we called it, dream day. So we started off dream day with expert interviews. So what we did, we didn't bring anyone in for this particular one, but what we did was we got some video and audio footage from podcasts of people talking about redesigning learning spaces. So wherever you want to hear from the outside influences to try and help you solve the problem, expert interviews is how you can do that. So as the experts were talking, everyone wrote how might we statements, like challenge statements. So when issues came up, they're like, how might we ensure that we remove bias from the design process? And then once all the how might we's are up, after the expert interviews, everyone got to vote, 5 votes. And you'll see here that we got some most voted how might we statements, guiding us towards, well, what are the particular challenges we want to look at in this process? And that enabled us to then go from the expert interviews into the next stage and start getting aspirational with long-term goals and key questions. So for the long-term goal, you would normally do that where you ask everyone to think about, in 2 years' time, what does success look like? For this particular project, we were looking at a design of a school. So actually what I got people to think about was, in 2 years' time, from moving into the new space, what does success look like? So everyone writes 3 long-term goals or more, but chooses 1 to bring up. And once everyone's placed their long-term goals up on the board, rather than giving them lots of votes, you get them to put their initials on 1 sticky dot, and they're going to pick 1. Some of them got like 3 votes, 4 votes. It allowed us to prioritize our long-term goals. Before you get the final decision though, you bring everyone up and they're going to explain. I chose this long-term goal because I felt it allowed us to ensure that each department was represented. And once everyone's done that, then comes with a decider vote. And that's just making sure that your long-term goal, this guiding light, isn't going to be a dead end. We got our decider vote on this particular long-term goal. So we've got a long-term goal. Great, we know where we're going, but it's quite aspirational. But how can we kind of, there's going to be barriers to that. So the key questions is an exercise following on from the long-term goal, which allows you to kind of think about the things that might get in the way. And they're phrased as can we questions, where once everyone has put like 3 can we's up, everyone votes on the ones that they think are the most significant barriers that need to be addressed in any solutions that you come up with. So you'll see here we've got the most voted on the top, which ultimately gives us a long-term goal and 3 key questions. Though I think we end up using 4 for our particular one, just because it seemed like it was the right way to go at the time. So it's the end of day 2, well, after lunch on day 2, and we're going to do something called lightning demos. Now, lightning demos is where everyone goes away, thinks about the long-term goal and key questions, and tries to pull examples from other industries, other sectors. We have 20 minutes of research, and then they presented that one slide for 1 minute. While people are listening though, you want to always make sure they're capturing the information, not just listening, but writing it down. And that's why we got everyone to just sketch ideas as they came to them during the lightning demos. And we've got these ideas starting to form, little sketches that can inform when we go into day 3. So we're on to day 3 of our new school workshop, and it's time to get out and about. So in day 2, we ended up with some long-term goals, some can we questions, and some lightning demos. Let's then go out and explore where there are examples of that. So we went to a nearby location in London to try and get some inspiration from the types of spaces that were being used, and to think about some of the can we questions that we'd generated on day 2. So it's great to get out and about. People gathered their thoughts, their photos, and then that brought us up to lunch, back in school for the afternoon workshop. So the afternoon of day 3. What we're trying to do now is work out what wows. Let's come up with solutions. In the design sprint, use the 4-step concept, so you sketch out ideas. So that's exactly what we did. First of all, we got everyone to have a clipboard and just doodle, go around the boards that we had with all the information from day 1 and 2. Then everyone sketched a few ideas, which enabled them in groups to create a concept floor plan, like this one here. So what we asked everyone to do was put the rooms, the spaces that they want, on the rectangular sticky notes. And then around that, what's going to be in the space? What does the space need to have? What is a must-have? And those are in pink. And then what would be nice to have, based on the ideas that were generated, the things that you saw on the morning kind of safari, if you like, and they're on blue. That then enabled everyone to go around and look at the 7 different floor plan concepts and vote, and heat map vote. And this is unlimited number of votes on the things that they were really excited about being in their new space. So day 4, what works? It's time to prototype and test ideas that have been generated in the floor plan concepts, and maybe out any assumptions we've got. Is there a way that we can test those quickly and easily using a prototype and a test within the space that we're in? And that's what day 4 was all about. So we started by asking everyone to have a look at the things that were most voted for on the floor plan concepts, and then think about how that could be made into an experiment. So we believe flexible walls are good for students and teachers to have a flexible space for collaboration, which links back to the can we. So those phrases, everyone wrote about 3 or 4 of those. We put them up and then we voted. And what that gave us was 3 or 4 experiments that we could take in to the afternoon in order to test. So the groups decided what they believed was the case, and then using that, they thought about, well, what are we going to do and make? And they got together into groups to think about what they were going to make and then how they would measure the impact. How do we test out if this hypothesis we've come up with, what are we going to measure to see whether that works? So that was the afternoon of day 4. That testing process gave us real insights into these ideas we've come up with, these things we want in the new building. Are they going to work? And if they're going to work, we can build them out more and more. If they're not going to work, it means you can have a fast failure. You're not spending too much time worrying about things that aren't going to allow you to achieve what you want to. And that's the custom workshop. Many aspects of the design sprint are in there. You've got all these different exercises. This was a 4-day event, and therefore we did manage to do expert interviews, lightning demos. We kind of did the concept, but we did it on a floor plan. We did a sailboat, which is not in the design sprint. So this custom building of workshops can be really useful for using with your own teams and in your own roles to build out, whether it's half an hour, just a note and vote. So everyone writes on post-it notes, they go up and they vote. Great for decision making. It allows the introvert to contribute in the same way anyone else is. So that might be the starting point. Or you might want to build out a whole project around piecing these together. And the key bit of information that is underpinning all of this is that the 4 C's allowed me to build the pieces of the workshop in a way that's going to work most effectively. So we want to collect, go out there, find the information, empathy maps, sailboat, collect activity. We want to choose. So let's make a decision. Let's vote and make a decision on what we work on. Let's create. Let's create ideas to solve the problems that we've identified. And most importantly at the end, let's commit. Let's do something. And that might be a small test, but it allows you to get a clear understanding of what works. So collect, choose, create, commit. That's the structure I'll use for anything from a 30-minute meeting to a 4-day workshop like this.